rain lashed against the marble entrance of the luxurious Rosewood Grand Hotel. A young woman stood there, her beige cardigan soaked, her simple white sneakers splattered with mud. She held a small leather bag close to her chest and spoke softly to the receptionist, her voice trembling. "Please. I just need a room for the night." But the receptionist barely looked up. "We're fully booked," she said curtly, typing on her keyboard without an ounce of empathy. The woman smiled faintly, as if used to rejection. "That's strange," she murmured, glancing at the glowing vacancy sign behind the desk. The manager, a sharply dressed woman with cold eyes, stepped forward. "We don't rent to," she looked her up and down with disdain, "people like you. This is a 5-star establishment, not a charity." The lobby fell silent. The staff turned to watch. The woman's eyes glistened, not with anger, but with quiet pain. She took a breath and whispered, "All right. I understand." But fate had other plans. Because 10 minutes later, every person who had humiliated her that night would lose everything. Before we go further, if you believe kindness costs nothing and that true wealth lies in how you treat others, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Everyday Heroes, where real stories touch the heart and remind us what humanity truly means. Her name was Maya Allen. To anyone who saw her, she was just another simple woman, modestly dressed, soft-spoken, carrying a quiet dignity. What they didn't know was that Maya was no ordinary guest. She was the co-owner of this very hotel chain, the Rosewood Grand, alongside her husband, Ethan Allen, one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country. But Maya didn't live like a billionaire's wife. She had grown up poor, working as a maid in hotels just like this one. And even after she married Ethan, she never forgot where she came from. That night, she had chosen to test her staff, to walk in without her title, her wealth, or her name. She wanted to see if the people who represented her brand treated guests with kindness, or with contempt. Unfortunately, she got her answer too soon. As she stood in the lobby, drenched and humiliated, the manager, Samantha, crossed her arms. "You heard me," she said loudly. "Call security. Have her escorted out." The guard, a tall man with a stiff jaw, hesitated. "Ma'am, she's not causing trouble." "Do it," Samantha snapped. "She's making our guests uncomfortable." The guard placed a firm hand on Maya's arm. She didn't resist. Instead, she looked at the receptionist and whispered, "I just needed a place to rest." "Try the motel down the street," the receptionist said under her breath, smirking. Maya looked down. Her heart ached, not for herself, but for the realization that people had become so quick to judge, so slow to care. She turned toward the door, but before she could step out, a deep voice echoed across the marble hall. "Is this how we treat our guests now?" Every head turned. Ethan Allen, tall, composed, dressed in a dark tailored suit, walked into the lobby. The billionaire's presence commanded silence. His sharp gaze fell upon his wife, soaked from the rain. He immediately took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Maya, what happened?" he asked softly. The manager's expression shifted from arrogance to panic. "Sir, this woman," Ethan interrupted coldly, "is my wife." The color drained from Samantha's face. The receptionist froze mid-breath. The security guard slowly released Maya's arm and stepped back. Your wife?" Samantha stammered. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Yes. The woman you just ordered thrown out of her own hotel." The silence was deafening. You could hear the faint ticking of the lobby clock. Every employee's expression was a mix of fear and disbelief. Ethan turned to the staff gathered around. "I built this hotel with one vision, to create a place where everyone is treated with respect. But tonight, I've seen nothing but arrogance and cruelty." His voice rose, steady but fierce. "If you cannot show basic human decency to a stranger, you don't deserve to work here." He turned to his assistant, who had rushed in behind him. "Laura, fire every single person who was part of this scene. Effective immediately." "Sir, please, it was a misunderstanding," Samantha pleaded. "We thought she..." "You thought wrong," Ethan snapped. "And that's exactly the problem. You judged her by her clothes, by her silence, not by her humanity. Samantha's lips trembled. The security guard lowered his head in shame. Maya touched Ethan's arm gently. Honey, maybe we don't need to fire them all. But Ethan shook his head. No, Maya. Tonight wasn't a test for them, it was a lesson. A lesson they chose to fail. The staff were escorted out, their faces pale, realizing the price of cruelty. Then Ethan turned to the remaining employees, who stood trembling at the edges of the hall. Let this be a reminder, he said, his voice echoing. No matter how big this hotel becomes, no matter how much money we make, we will never forget that kindness is the foundation of everything we built. He looked at Maya, his expression softening. Let's go home, my love. As they walked out together, Maya glanced back at the grand chandelier reflecting in the polished floor, a symbol of beauty that now felt hollow. But deep down, she hoped that what happened tonight would spark change. If this story touched your heart, remember to like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe to Everyday Heroes for more real, emotional stories that remind us all, no matter how high we rise, we must never look down on those below. The next morning, Ethan and Maya returned to the hotel, this time with a new team, one trained not just in service, but in compassion. At the front desk stood a young woman who once worked as a janitor, now promoted to receptionist because of her kindness. As Maya checked the new guest list, she smiled softly. Let's make sure no one ever feels unwelcome here again. And for the first time in years, she felt proud, not of the wealth, not of the brand, but of the chance to build something good. Because in the end, wealth can buy buildings, but only kindness can build hearts. True luxury isn't marble floors or gold chandeliers, it's the warmth in how we treat others. Never underestimate the power of compassion, it's the only thing that makes us truly rich.